This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central today with another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Continuing on with our theme of the month, a Black homecoming. That's right, we're coming on in from the cold. So, first and foremost, you know what you need to do if you haven't done it already. Go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel. That way you'll always know when we do come on the air. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're not on YouTube today. We're just on Facebook. We're going to try this today, being just on one streaming service as opposed to trying to be on two at a time, and see if this might solve some of our connection and lagging problems, all those other buffering, etc. that we were dealing with for the last few days. And if so, maybe we'll just have to do it this way every day in the future. But we are recording it, and we will post it up on Facebook as soon as we complete this segment. All right, as for our words of wisdom for the day, let's see what we have here today. See if we got anything here at all. I think I got something here. Oh yes, of all our studies, history is most likely to reward our research. Hajj Malik El Shabazz. Of all our studies, history is most likely to reward our research. Hajj Malik El Shabazz. Moving right along, our poem of the day. See what our Sister Althea has for us today. Oh, perfect. I like this. Yeah, I like this one here. This one is called Running Home. Black man, run! Run even if you are not an athlete. Run, black man, run. Run a long distance. You are a long distance runner. You are a lonely long distance runner, longing for home. Run, run to your home land, Africa. Hear the beat of the talking drum, speaking of your arrival. Run, run, come and close the doors against the white fangs of the star-spangled fox and watch, because he might huff and he might puff and try to blow your house down. Oh, and he might try to blow our house down. Let me correct that. And try to blow our house down. Even better. And that's Althea Romeo, vintage 1974. That's right, a blast from the past. But Althea is not done. She's still writing poetry today as we speak and teaching others how to do the same, how to express themselves in words, both creatively and literally. All right, now, chapter 4 in the book, the fences between. How and where shall I worship my God? Shortly after I had prayed at St. Patrick's, lead me not into temptation. I knocked on the rectory door. And behold, who should answer the door? We shall see. There we go. An obliging young priest. I knocked on the rectory door and announced to an obliging young priest my desire to take instructions in the Catholic faith. This was not a totally unforeseen probability. My 4-year attendance at St. Mary's Catholic School, upon the impetuous, naive invitation of Sister Mildred, had pretty well determined the mode of my Christian convictions. All of Grandmother Evans' children have been baptized and enrolled in the High Episcopal Church in Bellevue, Ohio. Mom, until the age of 14, when she moved to Canton, was a devout member of the Episcopal Church. She had begun to sing in the adult choir at the age of 12. My father was the son of a Baptist preacher. He and Mom married in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. We 6 children were baptized at the same Methodist altar where our parents exchanged their vows. Grandfather Evans claimed to favor the Quaker concept of religious fervor. He liked to reminisce about the Quakers' involvement in the Underground Railroad and the Quaker assemblies his German foster parents introduced him to as a child, even though any one of us might have been heard to say, I do not like such and such a church as well as another. We, nevertheless, as a family, had an ecumenical mentality long before we ever heard this terminology. Our family's religious beliefs were not complicated. Our faith centered around a creator, Father God, whose son Jesus came to earth to teach us how to live. In so doing, he died upon the cross for our salvation. We were taught that we truly loved God when we treated our fellow man with the same respect we preferred for ourselves. We were taught that low or high intelligence, even poverty or wealth, could determine an individual's religious inclinations. With an emphasis upon the search for knowledge and wisdom, we were reminded to whom much is given, much is expected. We believed, too, that every individual had the right and the obligation to worship God in the manner he chooses, according to the grace and talents which God bestowed upon him or her. My formal education began at St. Mary's Multi-Ethnic Catholic School, where I spent 4 joyous years. At the daily weekday masses and on Sundays, we knelt reverently and spoke devoutly to God. I sensed his presence every time I entered church. I knew that my heavenly Father was my protector when I prayed, lead us not into temptation. He supplied my needs when I prayed, give us this day our daily bread. I was encouraged and challenged by the catechism classes, the Bible stories, and Mom's exhortation to seek wisdom and knowledge for the glory of God. I, with my brown skin and that Catholic sea of white faces, clung tenaciously and hopefully to the promise that I would inherit the earth if I obeyed God's commandments. When we moved across town in 1918 to a more affluent, less ethnic-oriented Catholic parish, the pastor refused to enroll me in the 5th grade, my sister in the 3rd grade, and my brother, who was about to enter the 1st grade in his school, period, dot. His school, he said, was open only to born Catholics. Mom, knowing the priest was referring to her children's born color and not born faith, expressed her indignation by forbidding me in particular to ever go near a Catholic church again. I sadly but obediently acquiesced until my senior year in high school. With this rejection from St. Joseph's, I feared Mom would re-emphasize our identity with St. Paul's AME Sunday School. My intermittent attendance there between the ages of 7 and 10 was filled with hurt and rejection There was much adulation and acceptance of light-skinned children, but there was almost a contemptuous rejection of the brown and dark-skinned boys and girls. There was no love or acceptance there. In addition to the color distinctions, the Sunday school gatherings were predominantly social events. To display one's expensive clothing, to detail a Sunday dinner, to do all kinds of things, except what I really wanted to do the most. It provided an intimate dialogue for a favored few. There was little time devoted to prayer, the memorization of a Bible verse, or the discussion of a catechism lesson. We always claimed it was by accident that we discovered St. John's. But one Sunday morning, my sister and I went out of our way to find this little storefront church where people were so friendly and the minister preached intellectual sermons. There was no shouting or emotional hysterics and no standards of physical beauty. The dilapidated one-story frame building which housed the St. John's AME Zion congregation hugged the sidewalks on the corner of 8th and Lafayette Streets. Amateurishly constructed wooden benches rested unevenly on the pine floors. A one-stepped raised platform was the preacher's pulpit and the choir loft. The 4 or 5 oversized windows facing east and north had been papered with a gaudy, transparent cellophane window covering through which no one could peer in or out. Someone must have thought this decorative necessity came close to the stained glass windows of the beautiful churches uptown. We were comfortable there, and I felt useful. I taught a Sunday school class of elementary boys and girls. I played the piano for the choir. I loved the singing, but a part of me would never acclaim this place as church. Church to me was an architecturally magnificent place where people went to kneel before God in his holy of holies. Church was a house of prayer. There was very little prayer in this assembly. There was teaching, discussion, some differences of opinion, but no communion with the God of the universe. My soul was filled with yearning. I wanted to worship God in a temple or his great outdoors, not in a stable, not in an abandoned storeroom. In the early 1920s, I was introduced to a spectacular type of religious service when Amy Semple McPherson, a nationally renowned evangelist, conducted a revival at the Canton City Auditorium. I was about 15 years old. For several nights, my mother permitted me to accompany my Aunt Clella to this unusual service. We joined the hundreds of spectators and worshipers, standing in a long line on Cleveland Avenue, eager to get the best seats in the auditorium to better gaze at this fantastic woman. As beautiful as she was in her flowing white robe, she reminded me more of a Theda Bara or a Norma Talmadge movie star than one of God's saints. She did not fit the image I had of one proclaiming Jesus. She was not the counterpart of the biblical woman or saints I had read about, such as Ruth, Vashti, Judith, Saint Teresa, Saint Cecilia, Saint Anne, Saint Santa Monica, Saint Agatha, and even Mary, the mother of Jesus, were far different. God-loving, Jesus-adoring women. To my 15-year-old observation, each service reminded me of a theatrical performance, with all the adulation heaped upon the star performer. And then I entered college. My attendance at the Baptist church in Kent, sporadic as it was, alerted me to the realization that I was beginning to build up some negative attitudes about various religious gatherings. I found myself scrutinizing every action and analyzing every sermonized word. Too often, the prayers and exhortations were shouted and bellowed as though God was on the highest mountaintop or blocks away somewhere, exciting his congregation with moanings and groanings about the evils of this world. The preacher focused upon the heaven to which his congregation was bound. In equally intense oratory, he condemned dancing, drinking, playing cards, and movies. Nothing was said about how to live a good life, how to use one's talents to serve mankind, or how to live in the world and not become a part of the world. We did many things in our home which would have automatically disqualified us from membership in a Protestant church. We engaged in a variety of card games, and we went to the movies at least once a week. It was difficult for me to label any of the preacher's forbidden behaviors as sinful. The Ten Commandments did not mention them. When Grandma taught me how to make elderberry wine and dandelion blossom wine, she reminded me of the first miracle Jesus performed, changing water into wine at the marriage feast. The misuse of anything can be sinful. A thinking human should never let an object or situation master him. He always remains in control. If he cannot, he should remove himself from the danger. We were permitted to taste our homemade wine at Thanksgiving or Christmas. A little glass of hot wine with lemon could be taken if we had a bad cold. Grandpa had his whiskey toddy every evening before bedtime. No one in our family was ever known to have been drunk or intoxicated. Dancing, to me, even though I could not dance a step, was a beautiful art form, like a painting or a picture. Running a race, swimming, or playing a game of tennis. Every nation on earth had its distinctive dance. I was learning through my music appreciation course that there was a beauty of movement and a message in the waltz, the polka, the hula, Virginia reel, tango, tap dance, ballet, and other dance forms. Recognition was being given to the spiritual and jazz music as a distinctive Negro American contribution, but the African dance was still considered a barbaric ritual. So little of a positive nature was taught about our African heritage in the 1920s. At age 19, I hoped to rekindle some of the sacred movements of my early childhood and to enjoy again the beauty and ritual of the Catholic Church. I needed to feel close to a source of strength and to recapture the sense of belonging to the entire human race, not just an isolated segment of humanity. I was hungry for an in-depth religious instruction. World history from the time of creation to the Caesars of Christ's time could be read in any ancient history book. The leadership of America could be traced from President Washington to each of his successors. I wanted to know who followed the 12 apostles. If Peter was the rock upon which the church was built, who succeeded him? And who was the head of the church in the 20th century? I wanted to know the history of Christianity year by year and generation by generation, since Christ walked the earth as man. I satisfied my need to communicate with Jesus by entering the Catholic Church nearly every time I passed its cross-adorned steeple. Always, I entered the edifice alone. But once inside, I believed I was surrounded by a host of saints who understood and strengthened me. I left the church refreshed and filled with a sense of peace, while at the same time thirsting for something more. Most of the above I shared with the young priest at St. Patrick's. He listened attentively, with an occasional nod of his head. I understand, he said. Would you like to complete the series of instructions before your graduation? Just tell me when you want to begin. And we'll end right there. We'll pick up from there next week on Monday. So the next time we get together, we'll pick up from right where we left off about Norma Snipes' religious experiences. Her first experiences inside of her house. She talked about her experiences at home, but in this piece, she also goes on to talk about how she began to develop beyond what her parents had given her. So you always have to. Life is a relay race. We're always picking up batons and then carrying them on further, taking them further. Hopefully that's what we're doing, at least anyway. Some of us are. I know I do. So at any rate, I hope you all enjoyed our reading for the day about the life of Norma Marsaray from the book The Fences Between. You know, we'll be back tonight at 9 p.m. to read more scary stories. And we've got some good ones for you starting tonight. We're starting the second part of our series of Our Scary Stories for the month of October. Okay? Or maybe we should call it Rocktober. I haven't come up with another catchy name yet. But certainly we're doing something a little bit different here in telling our scary stories, as opposed to all the ones that they're portraying on TV, etc. We have some of our own, but I call them our scary stories, but they're really stories of the supernatural world of Africans at home and abroad. So that's really what we're dealing with. So hopefully you'll return to check us out again at 9 p.m. Sorry for any delays that we've had today in getting our programs up here. We're still trying to deal with some technical difficulties, and today I'm seeing so far it looks like our feed is good. Everything's being recorded properly. So I'm going to go ahead and try to upload the segment we did on YouTube onto Facebook. So look for that on Facebook in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, may peace guide your way as you have been guided to come and visit with us today here at the Tubular Black Facts channel on YouTube. Please go ahead and subscribe while you're here. Peace out with justice, because anything less disgusts us. And let me just give a wave and a shout out to Esther Owens and Kwame. Where's Kwame? There goes Kwame over there. All right. Peace out, y'all.